Welcome, everybody, to another episode 8 of 25 with Tech 25. I'm Tim Higgins, Secretary at District 25's Tech Department.
And Andrew Benton, Data and Systems Specialist.
And today we're going to be talking to you about getting organized, staying organized. It's something that we all need to get better at, including us. But we'll share sort of, I guess, a couple of the things that we do to keep our lives a little bit more organized. We'll be joined by Chris Fano here shortly. But as always, it's kind of going to be just some rapid fire tricks, tips, good habits, best practices, stuff like that.
Hello.
Hello.
I wasn't organized enough to be here on time. So now I'm excited to be there.
And to teach us sort of what you did wrong so that you guys don't make the same mistake and end up late to stuff. So we'll just jump right into it and get started. And so we've talked about in the past, we've done some Google Drive sessions on this show, and we continue to kind of push the whole Google thing. And so we're going to start off by just doing a quick little, very fast recap of some of the different things that we've talked about in the past in terms of Google Drive. And so inside of Google Drive, one of the best tools to actually get organized, stay organized, is going to be using your Google Drive, which you have when you log into a Google account from google.com into one of your district accounts. You can click on the little app chooser here in the upper right, select Drive, and we end up here. We end up in this place where we can store files, or if you already have them, this is where they are. And a simple way of keeping organized both on your computer and on Drive is going to be to create folders. The way you do that is you click on the New button, you add a new folder, and you title the folder, which is just as important as anything else, is giving it a good name to really describe sort of what it contains, so that later on when you have to find something, it's fairly clear. So I've named the folder, I've added it here. We notice that in Google Drives, the way that things get organized is all of our folders line up in order at the top of the page, followed then by individual files down below. And so another sort of thing that we can do, besides naming it, is we can color code it. So if you're somebody who's a visual organizer, if we select our folder, we know that it's, we know we've selected it if it's highlighted blue. We can select our More Actions button up top, and if we hover over the Change Color section, we have a whole little palette of colors that we can change it to. And once we've done that, then it's a matter of getting stuff to it. So we can easily click and drag different documents here into the folder that we'd like it to reside. And so click and drag and leave it where you want to go. So once you have stuff in an organization that makes sense for you, that makes sense based on your content, you're going to want to be able to find it. And as I was dragging items into here, we noticed on the left-hand side something happened. Where we see My Drive labeled here, there's a little triangle, a little twirl down menu, that if we click that, we get to see all of the folders. This corresponds directly with these folders. And then if there's actually folders within that, you can twirl down through the hierarchy of those folders. So that's a way of sort of being able to figure out exactly what you have where, and we can click on it. It'll bring us right to the place that we need to go. So that's a quick little thing about Drive. If I quit out of Drive and come back just to my normal Mac operating system, on our menu bar down at the bottom of the page is a little blue face, which is an icon that has been with Apple stuff pretty much for the entire stretch that Apple's been around. And in the Finder, it is a very similar setup. We can navigate based on the sidebar here to be able to view different sections. We can, using our More Actions More Actions button as well, create new folders that we can easily just click and drag into different sections of that of the computer there in Finder. And from here, same thing. You just click and drag items into it, and that is where they will reside. So folders, really, I guess what we're getting at here, folders are going to be your key tool to getting organized, keeping organized. Now, if you have thousands of things that are out and about on your desktop already, the best thing to do is to figure out a structure of folders that you want to use. I would say keep them in the documents folder and lay them out. Here are my sort of secretary folders, keeping track of invoices, my purchase card information. And then you can kind of go from there. To kind of take it one big bite out of being, years of files building up somewhere is fairly unrealistic. But what you can do to kind of create a new good habit is set up some folders, and then as you notice things, drag them into the folders in which they belong. If you find that one of those folders is getting filled up with too much stuff, figure out how you can break those files down and then add several more folders to be organized a little bit further. And so that we notice now that we've looked at Google Drive, we've looked at the Finder. One little last review I want to talk about before we move on to some of the new stuff is the Google Docs for Mac, or the Google Drive for Mac, rather. And the way to access that, if you don't already use it, is it's basically a program that you download to your computer that meshes your Google Drive that's up on the Google Cloud, up on Google computers, and your hard drive on your computer. So it kind of makes those two things one and lets them work together a little easier. And the way to do that is in Chrome, as always. We click on Settings over on the right, and we do this option to download Drive. It'll download for Mac and PC. It'll download a little application, a little DVD file so that you can install it on your computer. So you just tell it where you want it to go. It'll download it. We notice down here on the left, and then a way to install it will appear on your desktop. So you just double click it, follow the prompts, and what will happen is you'll get this little icon up on your menu bar that looks like the Google Drive symbol. Once you click on that, it'll have you sign in just like you normally would with your account, and then it'll sync. You'll see it go through a syncing process to bring all of the documents that you already have down to your computer. So if I come here into my Google Drive and I open the Finder, I see over on my sidebar I have a section called Google Drive, and it corresponds exactly with what is here in my drive, which in turn gives me the ability to manage all of my Google documents, all of those files and such. I can manage them straight from my computer here. I can also, the nice thing about it is just open things up straight from here. That's something I need permission for. But you can open your documents. It'll launch you either into Google Drive to edit them there, or it'll launch Word or Excel or one of the comparable programs that's on your computer to be able to manage your files there. So that's Google Drive for Mac. I highly recommend it. As always, if you have any questions about how to set it up, you can talk to either your building support technician, your BST, your tech facilitators, or you can talk to one of us here at District 25. So I'm going to hand it on over to Andrew Benton, who's going to take you through a couple cool things.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, this is actually pretty cool, and it's kind of a did you know. There's organizations out there that have the miles of file cabinets with just documents and stuff in them, and you may have been hearing that a lot of these organizations are actually running all of those files through scanners and creating them electronically to be stored on hard drives. And so we actually can do the same thing. I think one of the reasons I'm best to talk about this, and the two guys here will agree, is the stacks of papers that I have on my desk. So that's just personal stuff that I can run through the copiers in my building, and you all have the exact same capability, and send them straight to my inbox. I can actually even send a whole packet of information that doesn't even have anything really to do with each other, but I can send the whole pack to the to my inbox, open it in preview, and I'm going to show you all this. Open it in preview, and then break down that large PDF into the pieces, the logical breakdown of that large document. So So we could be talking about, you know, graded papers that you may have. We could be talking about pictures that the kids have drawn that you just wanted electronically and you just didn't want stacked up on your desks. And again, your own piles of stuff. The one thing to understand is sometimes people think of scanners as these little single sheet feeds where our copiers actually allow you to grab a whole slew 50 plus pieces of paper, put it in the feeder, and all 50 pieces rip through the copier as fast as they do for copies, and the whole document is emailed to you. So it really is very cool. We can't get into the how to do it on the copy machine in this short time we have. We're going to ask again for you to talk to your BSTs, tech facilitators, or us as to how to make that piece happen. But again, documents being transferred straight through, scanned right out of the copiers into your inbox. And I did that earlier to the TechReturtle account here. And you might see it right here. So this document, this will be a familiar subject. It's from, in this case, D25 Rico. And this was a packet of papers that I had on my desk. I'm going to name it something a little bit more logical. Well, I mean, this is obviously for demo purposes, but in my documents folder, I happen to have a folder called Scan Docs. I just think it's a good idea organizationally that you just send everything there to a folder called Scan Docs. You just know that if it came from the copier to put it in there, and then we'll break it down from there. So I'm gonna save that document. Go right to my Finder, go to Documents, go to Scan Docs, and here is this packet from my, well, forget the file name. If I open this up, it opens right up in Preview. Now, please know that if you do not have what we call the thumbnail view, which this currently does not, you want to go right to View and check Thumbnails. You see what just happened there? All of the document, all the pieces of paper, all of the papers that were in that packet are down on the left side as well in a thumbnail format. If I click just 4 of them, let's just drag this over here. If I click, because these first 4 are logically connected, I can drag them straight to a folder, let go. You see the little dragged? That little dragged in parentheses that showed up in the file name, and I can say, this is from the one project that I'm working on. If I open this PDF, remember I just selected these 4, I drag them over here. If I open it up, you see that this document is just those 4 pieces. Okay, so they're just those first 4. So then I could jump in and I could say, well, now these last 2 were from a different, drag them over. So you see how nice and easy that can be and how that can work. So in the end, I'm not going to take that any further. If you want to hear a little more about it, please feel free to ask, email, tweet, whatever that might be, and we'll be happy to assist.
And really, too, for anybody who is a little bit more adventurous with trying it out, the Rico copiers, it's fairly clear on there. You go up to a Rico, in the main menu, just tap copier. And the only 2 things you need to really remember is to, I'm sorry, it's right. It is a copier. You select the scan. Andrew Benton, keep me honest. You want to select the scan section. It'll bring up a little window where you'll set the sender to the Rico, and we have that. We can see that in the inbox it got sent by this D25 Rico at sd25.org. Is an email address we made specifically for that. And then you just enter in your email address is ultimately what happens. So I would definitely, if you're somebody who is a little bit more curious and like to figure stuff out yourself, it's not all that, it's not all that involved. But if you're looking for some step-by-step directions, we have that, so you can email us here. Or like we said, your building support technicians, they definitely should have the documentation on the step-by-step for that. Cool. So thank you, Andrew.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then obviously get rid of those pieces of paper right when you're done.
Right. Which actually brings up a good point, something that I wanted to, since we have the Finder up here in the first place. Speaking of staying organized, what tends to happen with all of our computers is we just accumulate all sorts of junk. It's one of the great things about the digital age we live in, is you can really deal with a lot of things, but it also creates a great opportunity for clutter. And the first place to kind of really go and be able to clear yourself out is to come to the Finder, go to your downloads folder, and on a computer where there would be more use than just us going week by week, this downloads folder, I'm sure, has pages upon pages of files. Start by just clearing it out, because really the downloads folder is supposed to be this temporary holding area. Anything you download from the internet that you don't sort of give a place to. So when Andrew just downloaded his PDF, it asked where we wanted to download it. But if I just download this, typically it'll just go right to the downloads folders where it's defaulted. So unless you tell it to go somewhere else, it's always going to come to this downloads folder. And so if you go in there, you'll notice all sorts of stuff. What you want to do is then, once you've downloaded it, hopefully you'll then either click and drag it to your documents folder where you've made a set of folders for your own organization, and you'll leave it there, which will remove that one item from there. Or you'll open it and view it, and if that's the only time you need to do that, you might want to send it to the trash, either by clicking and dragging it down there, or you can click and highlight it and select the move it to trash. Or move it somewhere else, whether that's to Google Drive or to your email to send it to somebody, but get rid of it. This downloads folder should be empty, with exception of a couple things that you're just using temporarily. Nothing should live here. I would also suggest that your desktop should be the same sort of way. I always like to use it as sort of a place to store the projects and the files I'm working on currently. But as soon as the project's done or the file's complete, if it was a one-time thing, we can trash it. And if it's something that we wanted to hold on to for a longer period of time, we can move it into our documents folder, or what I like to do is send it into my Google Drive and store it there as an archive going forward. This desktop, I like to keep it clear. It sort of keeps my head a little bit more clear. It keeps me a little less stressed. And I would think that it would probably do the same for you. So to go a little bit further into this Finder window that we're talking about here, which really is your greatest navigational organizational tool on the Mac computers, I'm going to hand it over to Chris Fano.
You know what gets me excited about the Finder window?
What's that?
Is that it's almost like a transformer, more than meets the eye, right? So we live in this space in the Finder all the time. And what I just want to show very briefly before we move on to the next topic is that there are two other areas of the Finder window which can be extremely important and helpful when you're trying to stay organized. The first is on this left-hand side. So not only does it show what your favorites are, which we'll talk about, but I want to show that right when you start to hover over any of these categories, you'll see that you have an option to show what's available or to hide it. So again, there are these different tasks of being able to see shared items, tags that you may use on different documents or folders, or other devices that may be around you or connected. So you can choose to display these or hide them to clear things up. But if we just concentrate right now on the favorites, one thing that I like to do, you talked so well about organizing your files into different folders, but oftentimes that means you have to jump into the Finder and remember which folder did you ended up putting it in and then going and opening it. But let's say, for example, that this scanned documents that Andrew talked about was something that you reference all the time. Instead of having to navigate to the Finder, to the documents, to the scanned documents folder, you can actually drag that over into this favorite section and then organize everything within that favorite section for quick access. So even if we go into a brand new Finder window, I'll have it there. I click on it, and I'm right into the folder. I can do that for folders, but I can also do that for a variety of different organizational structures. You can't do it at the file level. But any folder that you've created anywhere within your organizational structure, you'll be able to put over here in favorites. The other thing that I want to show is how you can control that. So let's say you don't want it. If you hold down the control key and you click on anything on that sidebar, you'll see that you have a couple different options. You can rename it, you can remove it, or you can add it down to your dock if you want to as well, if you use your dock more often than you do the Finder window. So again, by control clicking on anything in your favorites, you get a couple more options that you're able to do to help navigate. The last thing I want to show, which I think everybody needs to do for staying organized, is know how to use the toolbar on any window that you open. So again, I'm just holding down the control key, and I'm clicking on any gray area up in the top of this window. And the one on the bottom where it says Customize Toolbar brings up a whole set of other ways that you can put these little icons that will do different tasks for you. One of the things I like to do, especially for new users, you can change it right away to say, give me the icon and the text. So if I don't know what this little grid means, it'll at least tell me in language what that particular button does. Then you can see what other ones are available to you. For example, I like Path, and I can just drag that up there and drop it. There's one for Quick Look. And let's say we wanted to add in an actual delete button. So I can customize this toolbar any way I want to at any time. And then when I click done, there are a couple things that happen. So now when I click on any, let's say we're in a list view. If I click on this and I want to have a quick look at it, I can use the quick look button from there. If this is buried within my computer and I don't know exactly where it came from, I can use the path button to find exactly what folder and where it's nested all the way throughout my file structure. And it just gives you a whole way of navigating and managing your files in a different way. So go and customize that toolbar, customize your favorite list with frequently used folders, and that will then take all of the other tips and make it even closer for you to access them. So I think we're going to finish off talking a little bit about calendar.
We are.
Tim's going to drive it home.
And so we've been talking about a lot about file management and keeping organized with the content on your actual machine. But what I want to talk about is something that actually keeps me and my life a little bit more organized, which is the Google Calendar that's on here. I use this now basically for remembering everything. So this is the Tech Turtle account, so there's not too much on here. One being our Tech 25 show. But what we can do is we can actually add events here that not only mark on the calendar when it is, but we can attach different documents to it so that we have some reference material if it's something that's way later on. And we can set notifications. That's what I mostly use it for, is setting a reminder that something is happening. So if I come down here to next Wednesday, Veterans Day, as soon as I click inside the 11th, it gives me this space to be able to type in whatever is going on. And of course, it's going to be our next episode of 25 with Tech 25. And one of the nice little things is we can type in 3:45 p.m. And instead of having to go back in later and set the date, you know, by clicking on some little calendar to do it, it will, as soon as I hit enter, it'll actually just enter that as being the time in which it's going to happen. And so we see that in bold is the time, and then of course the event itself. So now if I click on the event and do edit event, I get a whole list of options here, a whole page worth of options. One being if it's something that is going to be, you know, an all-day event, you can make it that. It'll show up differently. It'll show up with like an actual highlighted background around the text on the calendar to indicate that it's something that's going on the entire day. But of course, we can also uncheck that and set specific time parameters for it. If it's something that happens all the time, like our show, we can select it to repeat. And so it'll happen weekly on Wednesdays, starting this particular date. And it will never end because we will always be doing this show, you know, until even when nobody is watching it, we'll keep doing it. We want to be there for everybody. We'll hit done.
And you know, that calendar thing is awesome because you can even do that in iCal. If for those iCal users out there, that you could just type in language like next Monday at 2 p.m. study for test, and it will create the same thing using natural language. which is really a nice feature. A lot of these have been building in.
Right, and I think a lot of it's building in as we kind of move further and further towards all this voice activated type stuff. I know that on the iPhone you can basically just tell Siri, hey, next Thursday the 12th, this thing's going on. It'll add it into your calendar at that specific time. So once if it's something that repeats, you can also select a location. You can, if it's a meeting, you can add a video call to it, so it'll create a Google Hangout space that can then be shared out to different guests, which we'll talk about here in a second. A little description for what the event is. And then one little thing that I really like is this add attachment. So if it is a meeting of some sort, we can come in here, hit add attachment. We can go to our Google Drive, or we can just upload it from the computer. And we can select a document that will attach to this particular event. And then when it's shared with somebody, they'll have this different set of materials to prepare. And then the feature that I love, and it's again, if I don't have it in my calendar, I probably will forget to do it. You can set notifications. You can set a pop-up that'll just show up in the browser in which you are signed into Google, or what's even more useful is setting up an email. And you can set it at any sort of interval to remind you for whatever is most useful to you. So we'll do it 30 minutes before. I will get an email reminding me of next week's show. Another neat feature is we can come over here and have guests invited to it. And so if I invite myself, remember this is the Techer Turtle inviting Tim Higgins, I will get an email notification. And I did this actually earlier from my account and invited the Techer Turtle account to it, and got a little notification here. And this is what it looks like to somebody that you invite. It gives you the name of the event. You can then click and view it on Google Calendar, and it'll just jump you straight into Calendar. You'll get to see the event close up. It asks, if it's something that you're looking for RSVPs to know how many people are showing up. That is an aspect of it that you can stress when you send out your little notification. And one of the nice things is once you can hit this little email guest section and say, if you're coming, reply yes, reply no, unsure, select maybe, to get some feedback on your particular event. And then of course, so here then we have some details from the event. That attachment is here, so we can open the attachment, see straight into whatever this document is, so on and so forth. So again, calendar, not just a place to keep your events, it can work to keep you organized itself. And one last thing, just to that I wanted to show just before we sign off, is this tasks option. So on the left-hand side, all of your calendars show up, so you can add, and you can add different calendars. If you're looking to break it down a little bit further, you can always create a new calendar. So I have one for work, I have one for home, so on and so forth. Amongst these calendars is this tasks section. And if I click this to enable it, over on the right-hand side is a task list. It's basically a to-do list. And down at the bottom, we can hit the plus sign to add a new task. And if we click on it, we can give it a little note of an explanation. We can create a date in which it will be due. So this is a reminder to prepare for next week's show. I want to be done by November 10th. And if I go back to the list, you can name it prep. And over here on the day before is a little reminder to prepare for next week's show. And when it is done, I can check it. Over here on the right-hand side, it shows as it's as crossed out as if it's done. And you can organize a whole lot of things. Again, kind of using your calendar to keep you on task, to keep you on schedule, to make sure that you're in the place that you need to be when you're supposed to be there. I think Mr. Fano could have definitely used this since he was late at the beginning of our show.
That's true. I didn't set a reminder.
Didn't set a reminder. And so that is a little bit about staying organized, using Google, using your Mac computer. And we'll definitely, organization I think is one that people value, that people can use all the time. So we'll be sharing some more tips and tricks in the future. So keep coming back, and we'll keep feeding you the information. And of course, if there's anything that in your life you find that is difficult for you to stay organized with, or you are looking for a solution to one of your own organizational issues, let us know. We'd be happy to research it and share it out with our audience. So have a good one. We'll see you next week.
This has been 29 with Tech 25 today.
A little bonus.
Little bonus.
A little bonus time.
OT.
Right. Thank you, everybody.